Communities are trying to pick up pieces after the devastating floods, which have now displaced thousands of people in KwaZulu-Natal. NGOs are on the ground trying to provide some relief. The International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent societies is helping people displaced by the floods to find each other. For more on this, I'm joined by Ruth van Rooyen, Senior Disaster Management Officer at the IFRC, Southern Africa. Good to have you on the program, Ruth. Let's begin first with the scope of your work in KwaZulu-Natal a week on.
Thank you so much for having me. Currently, right now, we're working with the South Africa Red Cross, who, together with the staff and volunteers, are on the ground, working hand in glove with the government. They've been conducting assessments since day one. On top of that, they are also providing hot meals to people that have been evacuated at the evacuation centers. And not only hot meals, but also providing your non-food items as well as your food items, the basic sanitary towels. They're also providing people with PSS. I mean, we have to take into consideration that these people have lost everything, have lost their investments, have lost their livelihoods. So psychosocial support is, imperative. Another thing that the National Society, South Africa Red Cross, is also supporting with is protection of family links, where we also take into consideration that families have been displaced, families have their loved ones missing, or, people have to still connect with their family just to let them know where they are. So as the South Africa Red Cross, they're also providing, phone calls for a period of 3 minutes, for a length of 3 minutes. They're also giving out airtime to the value of 5 rands. And they're also providing hotspots as well for people who want to connect, to the social networks.
And how prevalent would you say it is, Ruth, to come across people who have lost family members? I don't mean lost in a confirmed case of a death, but who've lost links and cannot trace each other.
Sorry, could you just repeat that question?
How prevalent are situations where family members don't know where the others are as far as missing people are concerned?
Yeah, I mean, with every disaster, this is something that we always see. And taking into consideration the extent of this particular one, people were being washed away by the floods. And so at the end of the day, and while they're being carried away as well, their items are being misplaced as well. They've lost their cell phones. They've lost forms of communication. So with every disaster, this is something that we always expect. Families are ripped apart. This is something that happens all the time with all disasters, unfortunately.
What then would you describe as the greatest need in KwaZulu-Natal at the moment?
That's a very interesting question. But I would say that right now it's more to do with the immediate needs. And this is the basic items such as your clothing, your hot meals, as well as your hygiene kits, sanitary towels, baby items as well. Those seem to be the most things that are needed by the people that the South Africa Red Cross is supporting right now at the evacuation centers.
And of course, we know that much of the relief efforts have been coordinated between organizations such as yourselves and government. How well-oiled is that system, and how is it determined who goes to which community to deliver what kind of assistance, I wonder?
Yes. I'll just take it back a little bit and just maybe mention that when a disaster occurs, the government is the one that leads any form of coordination. So the National Society, together with other NGOs, are brought together by the government. They sit on a committee called the Joint Operation Committee, where they come together and they discuss the impact of the disaster, and then they also discuss who does what where, based on each individual's capacity. So South Africa Red Cross is also a national society that sits on this platform, and then through this coordination, that's when the individual non-governmental organizations then go into the field and support. The government is the coordinating body, and it brings all the organizations together. It's also a platform for us as well as the National Society, South Africa Red Cross, as well as we as the Federation, to know and understand who's doing what where. So it's easier for us to identify the gaps and see where more support is required.
Mm-hmm. And final question, how long do you think you'll have to stay in KwaZulu-Natal?
That's a very interesting question, because one thing we also need to take into consideration is that in as much as the rains have subsided, the impact of the flood still goes on. We need to take into consideration that assessments are still ongoing. So the number of people that have been affected and continue to be affected, the number will rise. Search and rescue is still ongoing to try and account for those people that remain unaccounted for. People are still being housed in evacuation centers, and support is required. There's no clear date as to when, or for how long they'll be in these centers. So this, the support that is needed will be ongoing. So it's difficult right now to say when the services will end or for how long. But right now, all forces need to be on deck and support the communities and those, that need the help the most.